And I'm going to introduce our guest speaker. So we have Dr. Pilla. He's our editor-in-chief with the Journal of Sustainable Transportation, Energy, Environment, and Policy. And he's going to be giving us a brief presentation on this new publication, and then in which case Aaron Rennell, our product manager, who you're familiar with journals and technical papers, will be joining us for some Q&A. I will be monitoring the chat window, so please pose any of your questions for either our product manager or guest speaker today, and I'll make them aware of it. Dr. Pilla, go ahead and take it away.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. Angela, thank you so much for your introduction. Let me see. Okay. I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. I'm a faculty in the Department of Automotive Engineering at Clemson University, and my area of research is in composites or lightweight and sustainable technologies. So when I looked at the field as such, there were a few things that I felt like missing, where some of the research can be disseminated to wider public. And that motivated me to actually come up with an idea to build a platform. And thanks to SAE for accepting my proposal to come up with this new journal of sustainable transportation, energy, environment, and policy. So what's this journal's mission? Primarily, if you look at it, there are so many studies that are focused on the engineering aspects of technology within the sustainable transportation platform. But there are also some additional views on how the sustainable transportation studies or the technologies that are developed from that can impact the public policies or the economic perspectives and all. But what I felt is these are not two different or two distinct studies that we can decouple. Instead, we would like to basically integrate them and provide an impact of the technologies on the policies or on the economic perspectives or even on the social perspectives. So we need a platform where all these interdisciplinary studies can come together and provide the needed information for the audience. That is where I think the missing gap is in the current journals. And I feel like this new Journal of Sustainable Transportation, Energy, Environment, and Policy, STEEP is what we call, is something that can actually suffice that particular need. So in short, the journal focuses on combining the engineering perspective with one or more of the viewpoints that I mentioned about in terms of public policy, economic, as well as energy. So what are the different topics that people can actually start thinking about publishing on this platform? So there's so many topics that have been listed here, and I would like you to go through them. But in short, I just wanted to explain that from using an example. So think about, you have developed a lightweight component. So you discuss the technology that went into designing and developing the science out of it, right? But then this particular journal would not only focus on publishing that aspect, but because there are so many other platforms, including the SAE platform, materials and manufacturing, let us say, that focuses on publishing that kind of technology. But what we are interested in, you take a broader view of how that particular technology is going to impact the overall sustainability. And why we are even looking at that kind of integration or interdisciplinary amalgamation of studies. And the prime reason is, if you look at the current world, it's actually all about circularity. So the circular economy is something which is picking up the pace. In my view, I even consider that to be a circular engineering, where the engineering perspectives are actually built into the sustainable platform. So when you look at that kind of circularity in the technologies that you develop, and if you can actually provide a new impact or the impact that your technology is going to create and support the environmental sustainability, that's the message that we would like to convey to the audience, or to whoever it is, to the readers, basically the policymakers, the audience, the readers, and everyone. And those are the topics that are of prime interest for this particular journal. And the topics primarily will be looking at the engineering aspect coupled with the sustainability studies. So, as I said again, what makes this journal distinct and unique is basically the interdisciplinary nature of it. We are focusing on still publishing the studies and the technologies relevant for sustainable transportation, but we are taking a holistic approach, looking at the entire life cycle of whatever development that happens out there. And that is something which is very distinct and doesn't exist. There are other life cycle assessment journals, but we are primarily focusing on the sustainable transportation aspect by coupling all of the different perspectives, whether it's economic, social, as well as policy, and then integrating that with the engineering aspect of it. So that's kind of the USP of this particular journal. Thank you, and we are open to questions.
Much. First of all, I wanted to say thank you, Dr. Pilla, for being with us this morning. This is a very, very important topic, and we're really glad to have you leading this new journal at SAE. So my first question for you is, what impact do you expect this journal to have on the transportation industry?
That's a very good question, Erin. If you look at it again, I'm a believer that the studies that are published in journals are going to create some kind of impact. I don't want to say that this journal will be the sole platform that can revolutionize or disrupt the entire transportation sector, but it will definitely give a strong message to the transportation sector through its papers that basically not only just looks at the engineering perspective, but how, if you implement that particular emerging technology in your domain, what kind of impact that's going to create on the environment, right? Whether it's going to create a positive impact or a negative, because people know there are so many studies, whether it's a lightweight technology or lightweight engine or new emission controls and all those things. But people probably may not know the quantified metrics of those new platforms or technologies when applied into the transportation sector. And that's basically what this particular journal is gonna give as an information to the readers.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things we were most excited about when developing this journal was the really holistic view that it takes, and we foresee a really good impact on our readers. So how is this journal different than others that may exist, or what need does it fill in the market?
As I said, it's a platform that accepts interdisciplinary studies. So if you look at other places, there are so many wonderful platforms that do accept individual topics, whether it's pure engineering or pure policy or pure economic perspective or pure life cycle assessments. But what we are trying to do here is couple all of those things, because I'm one of those researchers who actually don't just purely build a technology, but I also always look upon how this technology is going to create an impact on the sustainability of the environment. So for people like me, who actually have much broader view of the impact the technology is going to create, this is a wonderful platform. So we are not working in silos. We are actually trying to take a broader vision of the technology.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And finally, the last question I have is coming from a reader perspective. So why is this journal an integral addition for academic institutions and corporate libraries?
So in today's world, if you look at it, circularity has become a big topic. Anywhere you see, I mean, there are automotive OEMs which have pledged to become 100% carbon neutral by so and so year, right? I don't want to take names here, but so if you look at it, the automotive world or the transportation sector overall is looking at how can we make this a carbon neutral system, and that's a broad topic. I mean, it's a huge topic by itself. And when individual researchers are working on the development of their own technologies, on the discovery of their own innovations, always a question comes up is, okay, what kind of impact I'm creating on these things? So this platform may provide a chance for them to actually think outside the box and come up with some proposal concepts of how their technology fits into this broader circularity topic. That is something I felt like may be very important for academicians, because today when we actually mentor and train students, we don't want to teach them to be in silos, just focusing on their own technology. We want them to actually think much broader, have a depth understanding in a particular topic, but also have a wide understanding on the overall things that are game-changing in the transportation sector. So this particular journal will be that kind of resource for academicians, including students and faculty. And for industry, what kind of things that will provide is the studies that are published in this will allow them to use the studies as a quantified metric document that they can actually use it when they go for policymakers or even to set up their own guidelines. So that is something I felt like will be a good information or knowledge sharing information platform for both industry as well as the academia.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, we really see a lot of value in this topic across the value chain, and we see it as really integral for all of our readers. So we're very excited to have you with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Pilla. It was really wonderful to hear from you this morning. And I'm looking forward to seeing the continued growth of this journal. And now I will turn it back over to Angie for some further Q&A.
So we do have a couple questions from the audience from Damien. It says, in the new journal, will transportation include the cargo sector?
Absolutely. As long as we can provide a means to the reader about what kind of discovery that has happened, and has there been any holistic view of looking at in the cargo sector. So we did not define the transportation sector just to be a road. I mean, if you actually look into it, we actually even considered marine, air transportation, everything, right? So cargo is definitely a big part of the supply chain. In fact, there was one of the discussions I was at previously in a conference where they even considered a transportation supply chain to be part of the entire gamut of play that's going on within the sustainable transportation. So in a simple sense, yes, cargo is also a part of the topic.
The next question is, how would social sciences subjects use this journal? So an example would be like anthropology.
That is something, again, as I said, we would definitely welcome interdisciplinary studies. So if it is a pure anthropology or a pure social science topic, then maybe this is not the platform. But however, if we can couple that with a study relevant for transportation, in terms of how you are actually looking at social perspective to further transportation sector, then that is something which is definitely welcomed into the journal. As long as you can relate to it and provide some new information for our readers, because ultimately the people who are actually coming to this journal are people who would like to understand how, from a reader perspective, the social science will impact my transportation or my vehicle or something like that, right? So we even are open for review articles on those topics.
Another question, it says, will this also include maritime topics and transportation overseas?
Yes, as I said, we have in one of the discussion things that I was just talking about. For example, today if you see the global platform of transportation, you have multiple products made in different continents, different countries, different continents, and they're all transported to one single place where they are being assembled. So that particular supply chain of transportation across the sea is also something which has been thought about as a big topic within the sustainable transportation platform. So we will definitely welcome even topics relevant for that, but purely focusing on a sea aspect of technology development is not interested, but how that actually even relates to adding on to the environmental sustainability is something we would definitely welcome.
I actually have a question for you. What organizations or affiliations have you worked with to develop this publication?
So basically, this particular topic that came out has been with some after some discussions with internally within the groups that I'm associated. But primarily, the proposal has been submitted for SAE, and and they accepted, because they also felt a need for such a development or such a platform, because that is something even missing in the SAE journal cohort, right? So that's the only place I approached for the first time, and I'm glad and thankful for SAE to accept that.
I have one final question, if you don't mind.
Sure,
could you
please.
elaborate on some of the challenges you've experienced in developing this publication, or maybe any future challenges that you're anticipating?
Yeah, that's a good question. The biggest challenge that I see is that getting a base of people who can actually follow the path of what I envisioned into this topic. But I'm so glad to have some wonderful associate editors with us who actually really champion it. And these associate editors are now, first we started with across the country, and now we just started to reach out to people outside United States. So these are either people who have experience in the materials aspects or manufacturing aspects or energy aspects, or even and life cycle impact studies, but they just don't work in their silos. They actually try to think beyond, and how we can actually apply all of these, and how their own discoveries will impact the sustainable platform. So these are the people I'm actually looking forward and soliciting. I mean, spreading the word is very important in this, and for this particular journal, spreading the word that there exists a platform which accepts interdisciplinary studies is a big thing, because researchers like me are looking for that. So getting this word out externally is a big challenge, and that's again thanks to SAE for their best to market this particular journal.
For a lot of the people attending today. Does anybody else have any questions? I don't see anything else in the chat section. I know we asked you quite a lot of questions and covered a lot of material. Erin, do you have anything else that you'd like to review?
Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciated having you this morning.
Pleasure is mine, and we really look forward to having some wonderful papers from the audience that are attending this webinar. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Erin.
Absolutely. Thank you to you both.